Chapter 28. The Will. The great work is above all the creation of man, by himself, based in conscious works and voluntary sufferings. The great work is the inner conquest of ourselves, of our true liberty in God. We need, with the greatest urgency, without delay, to disintegrate all of the I's which live within us, if we really want the perfect emancipation of our will. Nicholas Flamel and Raymond Lully, both poor men, liberated their wills and achieved innumerable amazing psychological marvels. Agrippa never progressed beyond the first part of the great work, and died painfully whilst fighting for the disintegration of his eyes, with the aim of mastering himself and establishing his independence. The perfect emancipation of the will assures the sage absolute dominion over fire, air, water, and earth. What we have stated above concerning the supreme power of the emancipated will may seem exaggerated to many students of contemporary psychology. Nonetheless, the Bible speaks wondrous things to us about Moses. According to Philo, Moses was an initiate in the land of the Pharaohs on the banks of the Nile, a priest of Osiris, and cousin of the Pharaoh, educated between the columns of Isis, the divine mother, and of Osiris, our father who is in secret. Moses was a descendant of the patriarch Abraham, the great Chaldean Magus, and of the much-respected Isaac. Moses, the man who liberated the electric power of the will, possessed the gift of miracles. This is known to gods and men. So it is written. All the accounts in the sacred scriptures about the Hebrew leader are certainly extraordinary and portentous. Moses transformed his staff into a serpent. He transformed one of his hands into that of a leper, and then restored it to health. The particular proof of the burning bush made clear his power. People comprehended, knelt, and prostrated themselves. Moses used a magic staff, an emblem of royal power, of the priestly power of the initiate in the great mysteries of life and death. Before Pharaoh, Moses changed the water of the Nile into blood. The fish died, the sacred river was infected, the Egyptians could not drink from it, and the irrigation system of the Nile poured blood onto the fields. Moses did more. He succeeded in causing millions of malformed, gigantic, and monstrous frogs to appear from the river and invade the houses. Then, at his sign, indicating his free and sovereign will, those horrible frogs disappeared. But, as Pharaoh did not free the Israelites, Moses worked new miracles. He covered the earth with filth, provoked disgusting clouds of filthy and revolting flies, which he later chose to withdraw. He unleashed a horrible plague, and all the herds, except those of the Jews, died. Taking soot from the furnace, so say the scriptures, he threw it into the air, and falling on the Egyptians, it caused them to have boils and ulcers. Extending his famous magic staff, Moses caused it to rain hail from the skies, which was mercilessly destructive and deadly. Following this, he caused a fiery ray to strike, terrifying thunder to reverberate, and torrential rain to fall. Then, with a sign, the calm returned. Pharaoh, however, remained inflexible. With a tremendous stroke of his magic staff, Moses, as if by enchantment, made clouds of locusts appear. Then came darkness. Another stroke of his staff and everything returned to its original order. The end of the biblical drama of the Old Testament is very well known. Jehovah intervenes, causing the firstborn of the Egyptians to die, and Pharaoh was left no other choice but to let the Hebrews leave. Afterwards, Moses made use of his magic staff to part the waters of the Red Sea and crossed it with dry feet. When the Egyptian soldiers rushed in pursuit of the Israelites, Moses, with a sign, caused the waters to return and swallow up the pursuers. Unquestionably, many pseudo-occultists, on reading this, wish they could do the same, have the same powers as Moses. This is more than impossible, however. While the will remains trapped within each and every one of those eyes we carry in the different undercurrents of our psyche. The essence, imprisoned in the myself, is the genie of Aladdin's lamp, longing for liberty. Free, that genie can realize prodigies. The essence is will consciousness, unfortunately functioning by virtue of our own conditioning. When the will is liberated, it then mixes or fuses, thus integrating itself with the universal will, so becoming sovereign. Individual will, fused with universal will, is able to realize all the miracles of Moses. There are three types of acts. A. Those which correspond to the law of accidents. B. Those which belong to the law of recurrence, events always repeated in each existence. C. Acts which are intentionally determined by conscious will. Unquestionably, only people who have liberated their will through the death of myself will be able to accomplish new acts born of their free will. The normal, everyday acts of mankind are always the result of the law of recurrence, or merely the result of mechanical accidents. Whoever truly possesses free will can create new circumstances. He who has his will confined in the pluralized I is the victim of circumstances. In all the pages of the Bible, there is a marvelous manifestation of high magic, seership, prophecy, miracles, transfigurations, resurrections of the dead by insufflation, laying on of hands, by fixed gaze at the root of the nose, etc., etc., etc. There is an abundance in the Bible about massage, holy oil, magnetic passes, the application of a saliva to the affected part, the reading of another's thoughts, ecstasy, apparitions, words emanating from heaven, and so on. True wonders of the liberated, emancipated, and sovereign conscious will. Witches, sorcerers, black magicians, they abound like weeds. They are, however, neither saints nor prophets, nor adepts of the White Brotherhood. No one could obtain real illumination or exercise absolute priesthood of the conscious will if one has not previously died radically within oneself, here and now. Many people frequently write us, complaining that they don't have illumination, asking for powers, demanding of us keys that will transform them into magicians, and so on. But they never interest themselves in self-observation, in knowing themselves, in disintegrating those psychic aggregates, those eyes within which is found trapped the will, the essence. Such people are obviously condemned to failure. They are people who covet the faculties of the saints, but who are in no way prepared to die in themselves. To eliminate errors is something magical, wonderful in itself, which implies rigorous psychological self-observation. The exercise of powers is possible when the marvelous force of the will is radically liberated. Unfortunately, as people have their will trapped within each eye, obviously that will finds itself divided into multiple wills, each of which acts by virtue of its own conditioning. It is easy to comprehend that for this reason, each eye possesses its own particular unconscious will. The innumerable wills imprisoned within the eyes frequently clash with each other, rendering us thus impotent, weak, miserable victims of circumstances, incapable.